So it's Friday the 10th of May. We are 14 days out from the press night. Are we? Yeah, 14 days out from the press night of Henry V at the Barn Theatre. It is lunch at the rehearsal room in Cirencester, and I'm here with Aaron Sidwell, and we're going to talk all things Henry V. How's it going?
It's going really well. We've just set, I think, one of the battles, and it's epic. It's really epic.
Is it like too epic to even give me any bit of an insight? Because I'm not really allowed in the room until next week. So
it's full speed. It's slow mo. It's lighting. It's gunshots. It's crazy screaming. It's the worst and best of war. It's just got in this one scene. It's just got absolutely everything.
So, if you're going to compare it to any film, what would it be?
I mean, we've definitely got deaths in there that are Willem Dafoe in Platoon, where he's running back to the chopper and doof, 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 doof. We've got stuff like that.
Any Matrix in there?
There is bits of Matrix. Yeah, when we have explosions, we go full Matrix. Epic backbends and all sorts.
I love a backbend.
Yeah, dodging bullets through backbends.
So how are you finding the whole thing? Because obviously this is one of the most iconic leading male roles in history.
Yeah. Someone said to me the other day, enjoy, because not every actor in their career gets to play Henry V.
That's true.
And I just went, oh God, yeah.
I
don't.
And a lot of people will be dreaming of it.
Yeah. I remember when I sat down with the script, with our version of the script, and I just saw, I think there's one scene that I have at the beginning of our second half, but we can't call it Act 2 because it's something like Act 4, because that's how William Shakespeare liked to do things, that I think is one scene that I'm in throughout is about 12 to 14 pages long, and within that is a two-hander scene, there's a three-person scene, there's a scene between two other characters that I'm sort of lurking in the background of, then there's one of the most famous soliloquies ever known, and then there's this prayer to God, and it is just such a journey. And I think when you look at that, it can be daunting, but when you actually stand up and you go through that, where your absolute pinnacle moment is coming right at the end of this thing, and you've just had the gift of 12 pages to work up to it. You're not just being dropped in at the deep end and going, now feel this, and now do this, and now make the audience think and feel this. They've gone on the same journey that you've just gone on. And so when I sort of embraced that, getting over the sheer amount of it is getting over the sheer, that's just the amount of it. But once you get into it, you go, actually, I start the play here and I end the play here, and I live all the middle with the audience. Yeah. There's no filling in the gaps. It is all there in front of them, and so it's just phenomenal. It's such a gift.
And so, how for you the process, getting from day one, script in hand. I know even in your auditions, you actually were pretty solid on those.
Oh, I was off
the book straight away. That's how I like it.
Yeah, I had to be.
Yeah, well, I think you've got to. I think you've got to get to the point where you can't, if you've got one mind reading, and I'm not the best reader anyway.
No, likewise.
You can't be giving it all the detail. But day one, I presume you you didn't have it all down.
I'd learnt the speeches, so I'd learnt the massive chunks of just Henry. I'd learnt. But I didn't want to learn the sort of the in-between, the scenes between two people or three people, because
I wanted to feel it in the room.
I wanted there to be spontaneity with the other actor. So the bits that were me and the audience, I spoke a lot with Hal before we came into rehearsals about where his head was at with those. I'm trying to find a marriage of the two. Looked quite a lot at why, one of the fascinating things about Henry V is he refers to or speaks to God more than any other character in any Shakespeare play, which is quite an interesting point when you think about that, because there's a religious element, or is he using that as a political tool? So there's loads of different ways in our version of this that we can play with that.
And how are you playing with it?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I think for him, it very much starts off as a political tool, but as we go on, things happen to him that he can only really hand over to something else. And so we see a change in him as he sort of discovers religion's kind of hidden meaning, and that is you handing over your fate to something else and just kind of going, oh wow, that happened and there's nothing I could have done to make that happen. There must be something else.
What will be, will be.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And so coming back to this piece, set in Brexit Britain, do you think it has a relevance?
You see, I didn't know loads about Henry V before, certainly about the actual person Henry V. But I spoke to a few actors who are very, the RSC actors, and they've been through the mill. And I actually spoke to a guy who's playing Henry V just after I am. And we both kind of came up with the same conclusion, that it's actually, this play was so modern that actually it suits it better to be set now. It works better now. The language aside, which I think even the language in this is very modern for Shakespeare. It really fits. It has a poignancy. It has the conversation of fighting a needless war, or when you win that war, what happens to the land that you've won and the land that people died for? If that gets handed back at some point, well, those people die for nothing. And so it's in terms of right and just and why we're doing the things that we're doing, it just absolutely falls straight into a modern day setting. And it just kind of, you've got this hugely charismatic leader in Henry V who has this wonderful way with words, and he's very open about how he's feeling, which I don't necessarily think that all politicians are. There are some politicians around the world who do. One of the I've been looking at the Canadian Prime Minister, very charismatic, very
Justin
open, very
Trudeau.
fantastic politician. And I watched an interview with him and Trump, and it was just hilarious. You had Donald Trump, who just so many hidden meanings and motivations what he's doing, and Justin would just open his body up and just stand open like this, and it, almost to go, all I can show you is me. And when you start bringing that into going, okay, so who's Henry there, and who's the Queen of France there? Okay, yeah, we can really put that on stage. We can really put that on stage without touching a single word of what William Shakespeare has done. We can just put that on stage with his script, and it feels like it was written by somebody who's sitting in the audience taking notes. It's it feels very, very set for now.
And so what's been really interesting in the audition process, one of the questions that always came up was, who is a Henry of now? In my humble opinion, even with Justin Trudeau or other brilliant orators in politics right now, I don't get the sense, I don't get the feeling that we have a Henry.
No, we don't.
We have a Henry in this world. So you're a big football man.
Yes.
One of the things that's come up quite a few times is, who are the leaders in society? And what I've always come back to is that it's more likely that our Henry is a football manager, or sort of an activist, or a celebrity, or an influencer, than it is in our political or the royal family. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. One of the names that we've discussed a million times, and look at what he did midweek, Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp has come up. You watch Jurgen Klopp with his players after they win a game or after they lose a game, and he has the respect of his players in a level of hierarchy, but he just loses that status. You watch him on the touchline, he is yelling and screaming and telling them off left, right and centre. But then the minute they're off the pitch, it's arm around a shoulder, and it's just like they're just best friends.
Yeah.
And then you watch his team 3-0 down run through brick walls for him. And I think that's a fascinating psychology there. How do you take these very highly paid, very unmotivated potentially players, and make them run through brick walls. Once upon a time, it was probably easier in football because they were there because they wanted to be. Now they're there because that's what pays their wage, and it pays them 300 grand a week, and
even if they lose, they get
even if they lose, they're
Yeah.
cashing. You know, okay, we don't get our end of season bonus for winning the Premier League. We still came second.
Yeah.
You know, is there the same motivation there? And I think the interesting thing about, say, like the Champions League is that there is an actual physical trophy that they're going to lift. You don't get a trophy for finishing second. So you see how players can change based on that, and I think the interesting thing with what we're doing here is, I think for a lot of the soldiers, there isn't the trophy for winning France. So how does Harry motivate these men to run through brick walls for him, and worse, to die for him, when there is no trophy
He creates with his beautiful words the trophy in their minds to go and do it.
But he comes down to their level. He humbles himself in front of them. He humiliates himself in front of them. He's been part of them in Henry IV Part 1 and 2. We've watched him live amongst them. And so he just sort of, he starts the play in this very much like, oh, now I'm king. Now I must crack the whip and I must X, Y. And then as the piece goes on, he just starts to become Harry again rather than Henry. And we've always, Hal, coincidentally, our director, we've always discussed who is Hal, who is Harry, and who is Henry. And finding those moments in the play where we still see Hal, where we still see Harry, and where we still see Henry has been fascinating for us, because there you find the different leaders that he is. But absolutely, I think we aren't looking so much at politicians. We're looking at, you know, deeply inspirational leaders of men.
So, as an Arsenal football fan, are you saying that you're channeling Jurgen Klopp?
I'm certainly not saying I'm channeling Pochettino. As also a Dortmund fan, I'm channeling our ex and probably our best, you know, because I think it's easy to look at Liverpool and what he's done at Liverpool, but he did it at Dortmund. He took a club in administration to the Champions League final. He is a remarkable.
He just needs to win it now.
He just needs to win it now. This is his year.
Henry would
definitely
win it.
needs to win it for me, because I can't have Tottenham win it.
But Henry would have definitely won the Champions League.
Oh, he'd have won the Champions.
Yeah,
as a player, and then he would have.
He's like the Messi of Shakespeare characters.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, he'd have been. He wouldn't have sold out and gone to a Real Madrid and Barcelona. He would have played. He would have taken his boyhood club. He'd have taken Monmouth to the Champions League final. That's what he'd have done.
Monmouth.
Harry of Monmouth.
Like
Roy of the Rovers.
Roy of the Rovers. So Henry was actually Welsh, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
I don't know where he was from.
He was Prince of Wales in the same way that we have Prince of Wales now, and then he became the king. He was Monmouth. He was Harry of Monmouth.
Oh, it was Harry of Monmouth.
And there's a great. It's not in our production. Henry V it can be very funny. It can be a very, very, very funny play. And obviously, with what we're dealing with the current setting in our country, we've kept elements of the comedy, absolutely, but we haven't necessarily gone for the very we've got a big speech from Henry here that's quite intense, so we'll go with this epic comedy scene afterwards, which is what Shakespeare likes to do.
Yeah.
But there's a very funny speech where the character of Llewellyn is comparing him to Alexander the Great, whose father was from Macedon and he was from Macedon. So he's got this, and he's saying, if you look at Monmouth and Macedon, they're not too far apart. And it's got this really funny speech with this character that's just so about the military and about the discipline and about everything. It's very funny character. And we've still got a lot of that. Ellen's a brilliant Llewellyn, and is bringing still a lot of that pure Welsh comedy.
Perfect. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Every Barn Theatre show has to have a Welsh element to it.
Absolutely. We've got a Scottish element as well. So.
That's not so good.
It's not all just England.
So the debate's kind of been raging on over the last couple of days. We've been on the street speaking to the people of Cirencester, whether we feel that Shakespeare, or what people feel, whether Shakespeare is still relevant in today's modern day and age. I think you probably have some quite strong opinions about this.
Yeah, very strong opinions on this. I teach a lot, and I teach adults, and I teach kids, and I teach, sort of the in-between. And just before we started this, actually, I did a 4-day workshop in Newcastle at a supporting artist agency where they offer sort of advancement into people that are supporting artists that want to move into sort of, actually, I don't want to be a supporting artist anymore, I want to play the role. I went to these sort of all adult actors, and I sat them down with 2 scripts. I sat them down with Macbeth, and I sat them down with Tennessee Williams' play Orpheus Descending, and they all flocked towards Orpheus Descending because it was written in this modern way, and it still had its style that was very Southern America, as Tennessee Williams liked to do, but it was a recognisable language to them. And as we started working on that, they were sort of, I could see that they were enjoying it. And then we switched over to Macbeth, and I sat down with them and I said, right, first things first, we translate. We're just going to sit here, we're just going to translate this. We went through and we translated it, and there was a young girl with cerebral palsy who was part of the class, and she just kept saying to me, I don't believe this was written when it was written. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She was going, it's just too modern. And I was going, well, what do you mean? She said, a woman would never speak to her husband like this back then. And I was like, but that's the beauty of Shakespeare. He was so ahead of his time. Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. No, absolutely not. This is a modern play disguised as this is just like this film I know. And I went, yeah. It's that film was based on Macbeth. No. This is just like this. I was watching this on TV the other day, and it's just, this is like an episode of EastEnders. Yeah. But they get it from Macbeth. They get it from Shakespeare. Everything we watch now. And one of the things that when I was a kid and I wanted to learn to play guitar, I just wanted to, my favourite bands were Nirvana and Green Day. And I was just like, I just want to get an electric guitar and absolutely hammer it. Absolutely just go for it and make as much noise as I possibly can on this instrument. And my dad went, cool, right, here's a Spanish guitar. Here's a little stool that you put your foot on, and here's a book, and we're going to sit down and we're going to go through. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to. And he said, if you learn how to play classically, you can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that principle follows every musical instrument there is.
The voice.
And it's exactly the same with what we do here. If you learn if you can do this, you can do anything. Tom Hiddleston, Marvel movie hero, Shakespearean actor. James McAvoy, Shakespearean actor. Who else have we got? Tom Hardy.
You got Syrian.
Saria McKellen. Yeah, you shall not pass. Our Gandalf, Shakespearean actor. Patrick Stewart. Michael Fassbender.
Yeah.
What Macbeth. Stunning Macbeth. Yeah. All of these actors are who they are because they are able to do this
a foundation
so well.
Yeah.
But then you put them in front of like a modern day script and they're just like, oh yeah. Because actually Shakespeare wrote his plays, not stories, not books, his plays to be stood up and performed by actors, not to be sat behind a book and be read. And I think one of the mistakes we make in this country is that we teach this from an English literature point of view. And we don't teach it from what it was actually designed for, and that is take yourself off, go and stand in the pit at the Globe and watch that play, and I guarantee you will not feel that Shakespeare is no longer relevant.
That's interesting. Just listening to what did you watch the clip from Good Morning Britain?
I haven't seen it, but we've discussed it previously, and
one of the things that the young lady who is arguing against Shakespeare is saying that it's just boring, and it doesn't matter whether you've got a good teacher or a bad teacher. Shakespeare is complicated and it's boring. And, I'm always happy to listen to people's opinions, but I would say that maybe she did have a brilliant teacher. But it's not the teacher's job, and that teacher wouldn't have been qualified to perform Shakespeare unless it was Judi Dench.
Yeah.
You're never going to get what you need from a Shakespeare, which is epic performances.
But also, even from a literature point of view, the reason Shakespeare wrote it the way that he did is so that he told the actor how to do it. He was a complete control freak. Him putting a full stop where he puts it is him going, do not break the thought. I don't care if I'm going to make you speak for 5 minutes. It's all one thought. That's where you change your thought. And so from it, because I remember, sitting in a classroom, and I think we did Romeo and Juliet when I was in maybe year 9 or year 10 at school, and I wanted to be an actor. I'd always wanted to be an actor, and so I was, kind of involved and wanted to. But I was bored learning it in that way because that's not how it was ever supposed to be performed. We look at it from that point of view because it's such an important, one of the most important parts of our history of literature is Shakespeare. I can't really think of many other English writers that are as famous.
There isn't. He's the greatest writer.
From a literature point of view, we don't have anything like that. And so we look at it in that regard, but that's not its purpose. Its purpose is as a piece of theatre, as a play, as a drama. It's not, you can't sit behind a desk and learn this and think that you're going to walk away and get the true best of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Because I defy anyone to go and watch Romeo and Juliet and tell me it's boring. I defy anyone to watch Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet and tell me that it's boring, which is a modern setting with DiCaprio and Claire Danes and, how many other ones? Paul Rudd,
It's got, that was...
stunning.
To be honest, that was one of the first times that I went, okay, I get this. This is cool. And I don't think... when did that come out? That must have been...
90... I think Titanic was 97. It was pre-Titanic.
It was pre-Titanic.
Pre-Titanic.
So that Romeo and Juliet may have been my first ever taste of Shakespeare.
Really?
And I think, to be fair, that's a pretty good one to sort of have. I remember I've referenced it a few times now, going to the RSC in secondary school and being like, this is unbelievable. And it was a production of Macbeth. No, it wasn't. I'm lying. It was Midsummer Night's Dream. And that was... And before then, I think we'd already started reading Romeo and Juliet. And I kind of had the memory of the film in the back of my head. But reading it didn't do... it was arduous. It was difficult. And therefore... I'm kind of thinking if Britain, we are going to celebrate Shakespeare, it should be on its feet, get out of the class, put it on, or go and watch it in a brilliant manner.
Yeah, go and step outside your door in the summertime, and in every park you will stumble across a production of Shakespeare going on.
Yeah, or come to the Barn Theatre.
Or come to the Barn Theatre, or enjoy it in its true format.
Yeah, for sure.
And how it was supposed to be. Because no one will come and watch this production and walk away and go, Shakespeare is boring.
No.
There's no way.
So what has this production got? Why should people pay good money to come to the Barn Theatre, travel perhaps, to the Barn Theatre in Cirencester to see, apart from having a wonderful leading man, why should they come and see this show?
Well, there's 8 wonderful actors playing... maybe 20 plus parts. There's a very simple set design, but hugely effective. I think what's being done on this, interestingly, the play starts with the chorus kind of apologising for how they're able to perform this great and wonderful thing. But I think there might be a slight level of irony going on in ours because I think actually the performance value is really good. It is a truly great story that is completely captivating from minute 1 to minute 240. It is completely and utterly consuming. Some of the performances in this are just sensational, just breathtaking performances from some people. And I think the thing that really grabbed me about the Barn and about this production, particularly at the Barn, is the energy from everybody, from yourself to the people on the box office, to Hal himself, the director, to the cast. There's an energy and a buzz. There's nothing stagnant. There's nothing. There's not one person here that you go, that person needs to move on because their motivation's dipping a little bit.
Phoning it in.
They're phoning it in. Everyone is just working at peak level here, and they are giving it everything that they've got. And so that will show in the performances on stage and in what's happening on stage. That will show. And yeah, I just think people are going to leave with just their socks blown off from this show. It's loud. It's in your face, but then it's calm and in your face, and it's and then it's brutal and it's heartbreaking, and watching just such a normal human being king, and seeing how okay, so how are you going to deal with your past at this point, and how are you going to... It's just a phenomenal human study, and I think that everyone will leave having learnt something about themselves.
And how different is it from previous work you've done preparing for this role, this sort of text, in comparison to, say, some other theatre shows you've done, or perhaps the TV work you've done? How does it differ? It must be just a totally different world.
Yeah, it's a completely different beast.
Yeah.
It's in such a lovely way. We come into the room and we spend half an hour just sort of playing games, just because you've got to lose yourself a little bit. You can't come in bringing with you any of the day's tension. You've got to come in and just sort of, whatever rubbish is going on elsewhere, you come into that room, you let go of it for half an hour, just play a game. We spent 3.5-4 hours the other night on like an improvisational bar crawl around Cirencester.
I know. I was there.
You were part of it. And so to do that and go out and begin the night as a group of people and end the night as a completely different group of people, it's just... I got back in the car. I'm living with 2 cast members, and I got back in the car and I went, that was everything I've needed for 4 years. I needed a process of going out with 8 actors and just improvising within character in and around a town in a bar and just having the best time. And when we came into the room the next day and set the beginning of the show, the body language of us all towards each other had completely changed because we'd had the night out.
Yeah, you've had the experience
as the characters that we're playing, and it was just this shift had just happened, and everybody was just grabbing each other by the face and just like, you know, it's just swinging each other about there was just such a familiarity all of a sudden. And that process, I cannot ever, off the top of my head, remember a process like that in rehearsals maybe, before you've sort of developed relationships, just where you just go and you just do that. It was a brilliant idea from Hal. It
should be a rule of any production.
Oh my God, absolutely. You can only if you leave the building with other actors, you must remain as the characters that you're playing the entire time.
Absolutely. Well, it was quite telling. The next day, I walked through town, and people were coming up to me saying, "Oh, I heard your cast were causing havoc in Cirencester last night." And then I just went on my Instagram, and I'd obviously filmed you guys. But it was even weird for me because I was me. I'm not a character in this show the whole time. But I was having conversations with people, not realizing that they were being their character.
Yeah.
So I'm don't know if I actually know these people.
Yeah. It was, I remember Johnny, who plays Nim, and he was playing Nim that night because that's the one that was relevant to. He also plays the Day Fan, but he was playing Nim. I was crying with laughter at the things that he was saying. He was so on all the time.
Brilliant.
It was such a great experience as an actor to walk away from. And I think after about the first week of rehearsals, we all just kind of turned to each other and went, this job needs to be about 2.5 months longer for us to, feel like we're going to be ready to let it go in any kind of way.
Or just have a massive night out.
Just have a massive night out. Just have the best time.
Brilliant. Well, I think we're coming up to 30 minutes. Aaron, we're going to catch up a few times, hopefully over the next couple of days.
Absolutely.
I know it's a big week for you next week, going into tech, and then we're opening the week of the 22nd. On the 22nd, that's when we're opening. I think it sounds so incredible what's happening in the room. I can't wait to actually watch it, and let's catch up soon.
Absolutely, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, dude.
Bye-bye.